Welcome back to What's Up, Oxford. I am super excited to have Arpan Khanna, our MP, on the show again. Welcome back.
Thank you, Shannon. It's great to be back on your show.
I understand you just presented a petition at the House of Commons about the homelessness in our communities.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So we have been seeing a huge rise in terms of homelessness and encampments right across this country since 2015, since this Liberal Prime Minister took office. We have seen 1,400 new encampments just in Ontario alone. And the stats that I'm seeing here in Oxford County, we have about 25 new encampments here that are registered in our community. So what that does is there's a few things. One, obviously, those that are living in there, we're a compassionate community. We want to help those that are struggling to get by, whether it's a cost of living crisis, they can't afford affordable homes, or they can't afford groceries, or if it's mental health challenges. A lot of them do have a lot of mental health challenges. There is a drugs component as well, where they're seeing drugs and addiction that's affecting their lives. But also for a viable neighborhood, we get calls in our office all the time from seniors that now are struggling to walk in the park late at night because they're concerned for their safety as well. So what we want to do is we want to create an environment where we have a thriving community, where we support those that need help because they are the most vulnerable and we can't give up on them either. But at the same time, creating these safe communities where we all get along and help one another. So
where you can feel safe,
absolutely,
where you can walk into a bank after 6 o'clock at night and still be able to use the
and not see a security guard in the mornings there waiting outside, right?
Or stepping over people that are sleeping in the doorways.
And that's not a sign of a thriving community. And sadly, we've seen tent cities popping up right across the country. So one of the local our community champions reached out to me saying she had an encampment in her own backyard, and so I went there with her, and we had a quick walkthrough, and she wanted to do something about it. So she went around to her neighborhood, collected signatures, and presented it to me, and then I had the honor of rising in Parliament and speaking about those issues. Because cities get a lot of funding all the time because they're big cities, they make the most noise, but rural communities like Oxford sometimes get left behind when it comes to funding and support. So my job as a voice for Oxford on a federal stage is to speak about these issues as much as I can, raise them in Parliament, make that noise, but also try and find solutions so we could actually stop this crisis from growing. The cost of living is also contributing to that. We have more and more people relying on food banks. For the first time, I think we had 2 million visits to a food bank in a single month. And, we have 1 in 4, kids skipping meals. That is concerning for us. And so, as a country, as a great community, I know Oxford has always rallied behind each other. We have Christmas coming up just around the corner, and a lot of these food banks are under a lot of pressure right now. So I've been speaking up about that in Parliament as much as I can to help obviously raise the issue, but also try and create this culture and have these conversations where we're actually going to be supporting our local food banks as we get closer to Christmas.
So we know right across the country that there is a major issue with homelessness, mental health, addiction, but then we also have this housing shortage crisis.
Yes.
So as we discussed, we're not going to be able to take people out of homelessness with mental health issues and addiction issues and say, oh, we found you an affordable home.
Yes.
There's a major gap in between. So what does that look like at the federal level? What does the federal government plan to do to bridge that gap?
Yeah, so we've seen various experiments happening across the country. We've been watching these studies happening in BC as well, where the government has been providing government-funded, state-funded drugs to, it's calling them safe in a way, which I personally don't think there's a safe way of doing dangerous drugs. I think all drugs are dangerous, whether the government gives it to you or you take it yourself. I think what we have to do is look at treatment. We have to ban these government-funded, taxpayer-paid drugs and instead focus on creating these treatment centers where somebody wants that second shot at life, where somebody wants to get better. They have that ability. I spoke about this in Parliament as well. There's no detox facilities and there's no treatment facilities here in Oxford County. So even if I want to get help,
I have to leave.
You have to leave, and no one wants to take someone else's clientele. So I speak about in our community, there's a guy named Patrick McMahon. He owns a few restaurants. He owns the Mill. He owns Ironworks now, and he's a great community advocate. He was once facing drug challenges himself. He was an addict. He was struggling, but some treatment, some tough love, the help from his family, his community got him up on his feet, and now he's a great, productive member of our society.
Right.
So we get to replicate those stories because I personally believe the human life is sacred, right? We have one shot and we can't give up on people.
Right.
And a lot of times people talk about them as stats, like they're like, oh, they're just stats. They're just numbers. they're human lives. They're our friends. They're our neighbors. There are people that we see.
There are brothers.
Exactly.
I have a brother that's on the street. My
Wow.
husband has a sister that's on the street. It happens to us.
It happens to everyone. And that stigma has to go away as well. And we can't give up on them. And I think that's where, investing in treatment, giving them the support they need, 47,000 people in Canada in the last 8 years under this government have died from drug overdose, from just opioids.
47,000.
Yeah.
That's the population of Woodstock.
Yep.
So
More
basically the whole city of Woodstock.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
and we lost more during the drug crisis than we did in the World War. So
Wow.
that just shows you, puts you in perspective, the crisis we're facing. And the same old apply that, we're going to just keep doing what we're doing. It's not working. And so in my petition, I called on all levels of government to work together. I think this is not a solution for one level of government. I think we all have to come together. We have great organizations in Oxford. We're very, very lucky. I'll tell you that. Oxford has one of the best organizations, Operation Sharing. We have United Way, Salvation Army, Helping Hands in Tillsonburg. We have a coldest end of the year probably coming up in a few months. So we have great community champions that are doing the best they can. But I think we have to look at a deeper dive in the structure and way things are set up.
Okay, so talking about the safe addiction sites or the safe injection sites, there was something new that the federal government has brought in where these are going to be hubs where people can go to get the treatment or to get the support they're looking for. So that's money that's provided from the federal government, and then it's up to the provinces to decide.
So that's from the province government. That program was designed by the provincial government.
Okay.
But yes, federally, we send the funds over to the provinces, and they're the best people to work with the county and decide where they want to see the dollars going. I was mentioning earlier, you don't want Ottawa dictating to Woodstock where they want the money to go. They're so far removed. You want to make sure that we have a local government that decides what is best for the community, because we don't want to do a cookie cutter approach where it's one
Size
fits all. Exactly.
Right.
So that's
and sending our residents to St. Thomas or London or Guelph is not going to be beneficial because they're not going to have the family support that they need in their own communities.
Exactly.
We need to keep them local so that families can be there to support them and help them through this transition.
And that's the compassionate way. That's how you build strong communities.
Right.
You work with them, and you work with different community advocates and different organizations to build that strong family unit. And again, to all of yours that are watching at home, please help where you can. I know it's tough times, but the Christmas season it gets very tough on our food banks and those providing services. So my small ask is, if you can, please give as much as you can to support them.
Every little bit can help.
Absolutely.
So just quickly, upcoming events. You're a busy guy. We see you all over. We see you advocating for Oxford County and Ottawa. So thank you for that. We really needed that voice. What upcoming events do you have on your roster?
Well, look, I pride myself in saying that I am a community first public servant. I want to make sure that everyone has access to me. I said that almost 2 years when I was on your show when I got first elected. I said, I'm always going to be available to answer your questions, sit down with you, have a coffee, and hear your concerns. Because at the end of the day, I represent you, and I'm holding our seat in Parliament as a trustee to fight for our community. So I do a lot of community events. We have a lot of happy hours with Arpan. We have coffee with Khanna. We have pie and politics. We have a event coming up on November 23rd at Dino's, where we're going to be having one of our neighboring MPs, Larry Brock, who is a former Crown prosecutor, coming in to talk about some of the stuff he's seeing on the justice side, on the crime side. We have our open house for Christmas on December, I believe it's the 14th, in our Woodstock office. We have a special guest joining us from the North Pole as well. So Santa will be making a visit. So if any kids or any seniors or anyone wants to come out and meet Santa and get a picture to be a part of that, you're always welcome. We had our Woodstock skate last week, and then we have a few more coming up in the new year. Again, these are ways to bring the community together. I think a lot of times people feel like, they're all isolated, and I know COVID did a lot of that as well. But my goal is to bring people together, unite them, have conversations. I think as some of my skates, I meet people from all different perspectives politically, and that's what I want to hear. I want to hear, I don't care if you're a Liberal, NDP, Conservative, I want to hear your perspective, because at the end of the day, I represent all of Oxford.
And you need to hear it. Do you need to hear that so you can represent us? And you're doing a fabulous job.
Thank you. And that's democracy, right, Shannon? I think that's the beautiful thing about our country. We had a Remembrance Day yesterday. They fought for these exact values where we could have open conversation, have respectful dialogue.
Not a dictatorship.
Exactly. And there you go. I know where you're going with that. It's all...
Yes, absolutely. Will we see you at the Santa Claus Parade this week?
So I was there last year.
I remember
in Woodstock, and I got to give it back to you guys. You got to figure out a way to get Tillsonburg and Woodstock to work together, because
So they're not on the same day.
they're on the same day at the same time. So now I'm conflicted, because last year my wife was in Tillsonburg with my kid, and I was in Woodstock with all of you. And you know,
This year we're going to switch.
we might switch, or I might spend time with my family, because Sim loves parades, Arvin loves parades, Avon loves parades. So we want to make sure we're together. So we haven't decided yet on which parade we'll be at, but we'll be there together, and I look forward to celebrating with the community.
Wonderful. It was a pleasure to have you on the show today. We look forward to having you back.
Thank you, Shannon. All the best to you.
We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.